You're with Pastor Troy right here. We're getting excited. We got a special program for you. You're going to be seeing over the next few weeks until we get ready for season 2. You're going to be seeing the best of the On the Dock season 1. These will be coming at you hard and steady. I want you to get them out there. Check them out. Help us get them out to your friends. We want to see you on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes as well. But this is the best of, get this, the best of season 1. Get ready for it. We're going to be coming at you with a super season 2 coming up this August. We'll see you soon. Enjoy this episode of On the Dock season 1, best of. On the Dock with Pastor Troy. We've got an incredible show for you. Get ready. If you're driving, put 2 seatbelts on. This is going to be one when you're going to need it. If you're driving, don't watch us on YouTube now.
I think I'm going to need a seatbelt too.
Spotify, iTunes, all that. But you might want to pull over. This is the time to go get something, sit down. If you're at home, get something, drink, hit the pause on whatever you're listening to, and get something and sit down and don't move for the next 40 minutes or so. This is going to be a powerful episode. We've got just a whole dam backed up of stuff to talk about with Haley, and it's going to be incredible. So again, On the Dock is all about conversations to propel your faith. We're not going to propel your faith. We're going to kick your tail out of the shallows on this episode and into the deep. We're going to equip you with some tools to help you understand this incredible subject, and we'll get to that in just one second. I'm glad you're watching us. I don't know how you're watching us, but go check out our other platforms: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and Sermonet, and check us out on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and Twitter. When you find us, put out good comments. We love to hear from you, but mostly subscribe, hit like, notify, share, and tell other people about this show. You're going to love this show. It's going to be great. Go back and watch the first 3 parts, and you're going to learn a lot. And when you find us, hey, we want you to be part of us. On the Dock has a way. You can go to On the Dock go to Patreon, download the app if you want, and you can become an On the Dock partner. You can become, let me show my coffee cup. You can become an On the Dock partner or supporter. We'll get you one of these cups. We've got some of these cups. And Ruth, you don't know this, but we'll have to get you something to pack it in because you came with just like a backpack. But you get a cup when you leave, so you can go home with a reminder of this time.
It's a well-insulated cup.
It is a very well-insulated cup here. So become our sponsor friend at Patreon. If you can't find how to do that, you don't know how to download that app, don't worry. Go to onthedock.org. There will be a link there to get you there, as well as a link to all of our platforms. You can always email us if you can't do anything. Email info@onthedock.org, and Donna will call and talk you through it. All right, we're back on the stage here with our team here at On the Dock. Got Mother Beth to my right. Hello, Mother Beth.
Hi there.
There we go. And we got Ruth Jane Subicat here on the platform. Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to cut Ruth here loose in a second. We're going to get that Harvard out of her in a minute.
I'm ready for it.
I'm ready for her.
I think, actually, I'm probably not ready for it.
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready for Ruth.
I'm already rethinking everything I've said and critiquing it.
I know. I am too. But we're doing okay. And for the record, our program producer today is Bill Long. Bill's doing an incredible job today. This is his first time to run this. Lucas is on much needed vacation. He's our techno wizard, and Bill is stepping in for him. Bill's going to do one of the most complex ones very soon. We're going to do our Zoom one coming up next. So he's be ready. Bill's an incredible IT guy, knows all about that stuff. He runs a lot of this stuff for our church on Sundays, but I appreciate him stepping in. Bill, thank you very much. He's not mic'd up or camered up like we do sometime with Lucas because we're out of mics because we got the full table, but we appreciate you, Bill. And after this podcast, we're going to go get us some Buffalo Wild Wings and have a little treat. We deserve it here. Yes. So we've got Ruth here, and then we're talking now in the Mosaic Initiative series, part 4, our Walk Away series, roundtable discussion, and we're looking forward to doing that. We've got at the table from the Mosaic Initiative is their executive director and founder, Haley Ottolini. Haley, welcome back again.
Thanks for having me.
I will show real quickly her beautiful family. Tell us about Ben. You got Ben, your husband, our worship leader.
I never can stop talking about how cool he is, but he puts up with me.
And you got Luca and Zion. Those are 2 of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love your kids. Your kids are wonderful.
Luca is just a little sweetheart.
I'll tell you what.
He has decided he wants to be a fireman in Germany. When he a daddy fireman in Germany when he grows up.
There you go.
Specifically.
They all come and greet me each time, and Zion's always beautifully dressed in beautiful dresses. She twirls.
She's tough.
She's tough.
She's a lot.
Very
so
tough.
My son is 100% his dad, like just a lot of his dad in him. And my daughter I think naming her after like a mountain was like somewhat prophetic, and she has lived up to the name. And if there is ever a third child, it will be named like Peace and Calm.
Yeah, you deserve that.
Yeah, because she's living up to it. She's got so much of her mom in her. It's both terrifying and it's thrilling, and I'm excited for it. But I have to get on her the most about like she'll have my son like pinned in like seconds. Yeah, she's feisty. I like it.
Well, we've been looking at the Mosaic Initiative. You can go back and watch the first 3 episodes. It's been just incredible. We talked about the organization as a whole. We looked at your local work. We looked at your international work. We got in lots of different paths and stuff. Went down all kinds of molehills. This subject of sex trafficking is huge. The Mosaic Initiative is all about combating sex trafficking and exploitation globally. You can check out their mission statement on their website. We'll give you information to that. It's in the show notes. You can see it already in the description. And we've been talking about the whole topic of sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is a form of human trafficking. It's a subset that we're looking at. It's specifically about the exploitation of a person for purposes of sexual nature. Sex trafficking can look different depending on your cultural, your context, but in every context, the outcome's the same. Exploitation of the vulnerable by persons in power is what causes it, and this is oppression. Oppression is not a good thing, and it's a modern day slavery. Right now, wouldn't you guys agree that there's as many people being exploited right now, sexually and human trafficking as well, as probably as any time in civilization? Is that what you found? Ruth, your studies show that at all?
Yeah, I mean that's what
it's
all the
the
sources
thing.
say.
Right now, we think it's always been going on, but I do think it's at an all-time high because people can move so far so fast. They can get places they can move. Plus, they can be used on. It doesn't just have to be physically done. People can be exploited online through photographs, pornography, lots of ways. We've been learning all that. So
I think we were talking about that earlier, like just a minute ago. That like it's hard to get like a scope of something that's underground or like secretive in nature.
Well, and it's always been underground, but now it's above ground, on ground, online.
I think there's
offline.
a more awareness of it, and it's hard to judge like is it happening more or less. But I do think that we can at least agree on the access to vulnerable people is at an all-time high,
and it's certainly more
because of
visible.
social.
We can't
because
claim
of
we don't
online,
know.
because of social media, because of apps, like I mean, even like on Minecraft when you're talking, like on chat room, like whatever it is, like there's so much more access to people, and
there's more ways to exploit people. Too.
If more people,
if you
so like
use
one
Google,
image can be shared, like one image can be shared to the whole world.
If you use Google search engine, you've all seen stuff you don't want to see.
Yeah,
you can just search almost anything. If you put the White House in the search engine, you will get the most dirty stuff because they already got whitehouse.com, and it's people have gone out and engineered their sites to trap you.
But even kids playing games online.
Yeah.
People get on there into the chat.
They groom them.
And they'll pretend like they're a kid.
Yeah.
I'm a 12-year-old in Timbuktu like you, and no, they're not. There's some 42-year-old pervert that never left their mom's basement.
And I've seen it happen.
Absolutely. I read an article recently where it's like a mom, like a girl, like snuck her phone to a camp and had it 1 week, and like in that time frame was able to like get exploited for nude photos, and they couldn't get them taken down very easily.
So
but that was happening even when I was in middle school.
It's always been happening. Right. It's just so much.
Yeah.
Access to our children is every one of our children have a phone or computer. Now they're not just accessed by the local people, the local family people, they can be accessed from anybody around the world of any kind of nature. So the access
communication and awareness, I would say, is more important than ever then.
And things move faster.
Communication with your children.
We talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but like I said, open, honest, and often conversations I think are going to go a lot further, like creating
because they are going to run
and just like having a healthy like sexual, like I mean, again, healthy sexual culture in your home, like creating that is going to go so much further than like, yes, it feels a little overwhelming as a parent right now, like with all the different kinds of access that people could have to your children. But what goes the furthest is like empowering your children to know that they have consent, they have choices. And if those things if people are not respecting that or or trying to get, or having unhealthy sexual interactions with your children, like them feeling empowered to be able to share that with you. And even in those cases, maybe they won't, but like, you want to create that environment in your home.
When you feel or hear that as a parent, take it seriously, investigate it. It may be nothing, it may be just idle thing, but don't snooze off today. Hey, Haley, you mentioned in the previous episode, just real quick on this only because we want to get into this. You mentioned on your website having some resources to help parents, books and stuff. Just real quick on that.
Yeah. So if you go to our website at themosaicinitiative.org,
It's
you
up on the
can
screen?
sign up for our resource list. It should like pop up as like to subscribe to the emails. Honestly, we don't do a ton of emails, so you're not going to get like a crazy amount of things. And you can always unsubscribe, but we have this awesome list. It took me quite a while, but a long list of all these different resources. It ranges from like if you have a disclosure from your kid, where to find a center near you, how to get them the best advocacy, so that they don't have to tell their story over and over and over and over again. How like from that to like books on like teaching consent starting at a young age, that were suggested to me by people in this field, all the way down to, articles on like more specific articles on trafficking and things like that if you're interested. So it's kind of a big scope of different resources.
And on a pastoral note, make sure your church has a policy on vetting their volunteers and staff that are working
absolutely.
with juveniles. We do it here at Community Faith Church. Don't be ashamed of that. Get policies and procedures.
Even adults too.
All the way around. Check everybody out. And then when Mother and Beth and I moved here, this has been my policy for years. I don't counsel the other sex alone. My wife's always been present. If I can, I'll bring in a staff person if she's not present. But when I moved here, my office is 2 layers in, had no windows, no doors. I looked at them and said, I will not set foot in that office. You put a hole in that wall and a window. Somebody says, what kind of curtain? I don't need a curtain. There's nothing I need a curtain for. So we don't have it. And you know what's funny is all the windows you see in all the other offices came afterwards. Everybody else said, great idea. And we've knocked holes in every office door. So because I spent $100,000 going to seminary and getting my doctorate. Gosh, I can't imagine what you did at Harvard. That's going to be greater than that. But I spent $100,000 at Emory and SMU by far more than that. I'm still not done paying for all that. I'm still paying my student loans, Ruth. Does that scare you at 54?
Yeah. Are you serious?
Because we deferred them.
We deferred them for masters and doctorate. So I finished in 2026, and I'm paying like $500 a month. Yeah. So if you feel bad, if you feel bad for me out there, feel free to send a payment to Pastor Troy Benetton Community Faith Church. I'd
Cash
love
app him.
Cash app, please. Listen, but what I want to say here, most importantly, is that I totally lost my thought.
Policies and procedures are really important.
Make sure you have them. We made them put the window in, and it's not because we're doing anything wrong. I value my education and training, and the last thing I want to do is lose it because of something that I could have prevented myself. The second thing is I don't counsel people of the other sex specifically, and even today, gosh, you're going to start thinking about whether you want to even do the same sex alone.
Yeah, just like discern, like, and outside of just like policies and procedures, it's a safeguard, but like a firewall, if you will. Yeah. But like have like learning discernment and
protect yourself, protect your
right.
asset. And the one thing my wife knows, if she's there with me, nobody can. We're together in this. So use smart things. Be smart.
If you want good examples of policies and procedures, and you're in like the church environment, you could probably even apply them to groups outside of that. If you own a business or something.
And we did talk about.
It's on Rafa.
I brought it up. I just brought it up for you. I have everything in the Roundhouse.
I think it's under their resource page. So if you go
to Rafa.org. Yes, look for the resource page, not the cultural care page. The culture care may have some stuff you'd be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but go check out Rafa. They've got good materials. There's some stuff out there by a company called organization called Safe Sanctuaries as well. Yeah. I think you can do that as well. Now I'm going to turn Ruth loose first. Okay. Ruth is first because I think she's got some ideas and some subject. I want to let her go first, and then I'll fire in the next round. So Ruth, you're up. Batter up.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of questions, but I'll start with one, and we'll see where we go from there.
Tear her up. Get her.
No, that's not my intention at all.
He's been saying this all day to me. I wasn't nervous.
This was and never
he's like,
my
are you
intention.
nervous? She's going to tear you to shreds.
Here for. No.
Get her, Ruth.
Poor Ruth.
Well, my question is about the idea of good intentions, because I think it's something that came up in our first couple of conversations. It comes up so much when we're talking about aid work. This idea that, like, before we say anything negative about an organization, we say, oh, their intentions are so good, but. And I personally am of the opinion that, like, good intentions really don't matter that much, especially when you're working in, a situation like this where each person's life is so precious. There's such high potential for error. You could really ruin somebody's life or prevent them from getting the healing that they need by making a mistake. You could cause more harm, and that could really do horrible things. So I don't know. What are your opinions, like, working in this industry, working with so many different organizations, about this idea of good intentions? Like, they had good intentions.
I definitely say it's intimidating, and to some degree, because, and I think that's why I'm like so, I think I'm trying to be really honest with myself of what my limitations are. So like, I don't have a degree in psychology. I don't have any of those things. I know what my gifts and my skill set is. And I really try to stay within those. And when I don't know something, I ask and I learn and I try and I like right now, like a lot of this year has been like looking up trainings that I can go to, that I can learn, looking at, you know, if I go back for my degree specific, like part of the reason I don't have my degree was halfway through it, I realized like this is actually not going to be helpful for what I'm doing. And I almost need like a mixture of things. And so it's been like a journey on that of like just learning and being a constant learner and never feeling like I'm really try to have a standpoint of like, I don't think I'll ever be happy of where I'm at of like knowing enough of like about it. And being really like using a lot of discernment, but I like 100% agree with you. One of my favorite books is called When Helping Hurts. It's poverty alleviation. So it's all about, gosh, I don't remember the full title, but it's a great book. Absolutely recommend it. Wonderful. Please read it if you do any philanthropic things.
Define
what it is
it's define it, yeah, please.
So what the book is it's all about the idea of that like intentions aren't enough, and that sometimes we really mean to be doing good things, but we end up causing more harm than good.
And that can come because somebody that's leading an organization doesn't understand the cultural ramifications.
Yeah.
Or
maybe we come in with like savior complexes, or we don't.
Or maybe they open up things, but they're not prepared to deal with the stress wounds that come.
Yeah.
There's so many ways.
So many levels.
So many ways.
A lot of it I find.
And some of it you have to learn through failure, but some of it can be most of it should be avoided.
But they can also come in with a religious agenda that's very narrow-minded.
Oh,
so they're not, they can come in and if basically somebody that's already being oppressed, they can come in with another oppressive spirit.
Conditional care.
I think
you see that a lot actually. Like if you do this, you have to do this in this field, and like you have to be a part of our Bible
study.
My
biggest thing that I see in this area is to tell the difference is in our church, in my background, and when I train our pastors overseas, is we have a thing called apprentice, journeyman, and craftsman. I use that. I know it's using old male language, but you can change it to be neuter. But in the trades, you apprentice, you learn under somebody that's done it. You walk alongside a ministry that's doing it, and then you think about starting your own expertise. You become a craftsperson. So I find when I see a ministry that sprouts up doing work in the pit, and they have no apprentice, they have no training, they haven't walked alongside somebody else, I get nervous really quick because they're telling me they're learning in the trench. When you're learning in the trench, you're learning at the cost of somebody else.
At the cost, with a
you
lot
would
of
not want your surgeon to go, this is my first active
we can't
castectomy.
Afford those
I saw one on YouTube, so I'm doing one.
Yeah, there's such a high like tolerance for error in the aid industry, and it's like really
But you're dealing with a conflicted soul already. Now you're doing amateur work with it, and you're just tearing open wounds.
I mean, it is intimidating, but it's also like it needs to be. Like, I think that there needs to be a level of like, oh my gosh, this is very important. This is someone's life. I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. Like, and I think that that's really why like we created the organization the way that we did, was because I saw so much error from good intentions. But like literally some of it like too is like a lot of these organizations have pioneered the way and had to learn because they didn't know. They've learned. So how like
we
now
almost
we
need like
to learn
a star
from
rating
them.
on some though, because I think some organizations.
That's one of the things people have proposed is like how to kind of navigate like giving almost like some sort of rating.
There's a good website. I don't remember what it's called. I can look it up after we finish recording, but I took a class at school on philanthropy and nonprofit organizations, and there are websites out there.
Gold Star is one.
GuideStar,
the
thing is, that's like super focused on
finance.
So I like it,
philanthropy.
But let me say this though, even though GuideStar is focused on your 990s and all that stuff, the fact that
at least if you're doing it,
if they're doing that, and you can go in the 990s, you can see who the people are in the organization. Then you can use the names to vet them back.
Yeah, it's a good model.
It's a good start.
Something like that should exist for not just like what is going to happen to your money, but what work they actually do.
But I think the biggest thing I see is when you look at people doing this kind of work, do they have experience sitting under somebody? Have they learned? They've grown. They've developed a character. They've not just run out and started the ministry. Hey, the Lord called me into Thailand, and praise the Lord, I'm here. And
that's
you
a lot
have
of what
no
we're
idea.
focused on. This like first couple of years of being founded is like I've spent a lot of time trying to seek that out because that isn't my like, you know, I'm more self-educated, but for example, I just signed up to learn about a mentorship program that is not necessarily something I will do because I don't think I'm prepared for that yet. But also like it's all about a mentorship program on like how to walk alongside someone to help them set up residential facilities. And it's very mentorship based. And there's no way I would even consider doing that unless I had that in place. But outside of that, it's like, now I know that I can like give this resource to other groups that are looking into it because it's absolutely needed.
Yeah, I don't think we have to all feel like we need to start our own ministry. I think we can find others are doing it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did when I started my thing is I looked for organizations like mine.
Walk alongside it for a while. And maybe God's calling you to a specialized niche, you know. I don't know. If it is, my mentor, Fred Bishop, go back and watch our opening series. It's like episode 6 or 7. And it's Pastor Troy's mentors. They teach you that when Fred started his ministry, he walked along Sammy Tippett and carried his luggage for years before he broke into his own ministry. He walked along beside somebody doing what he wanted to do, though Fred would have a little different calling. He spent some time. When doctors go through medical school, they do intern or residency in different fields. They learn competency. Then they move into their specialty. You don't start in your specialty.
No.
You develop an understanding of the whole body. If you're going to go to Thailand or go to Laos, you need to go learn the culture, learn a little bit of the language, maybe spend some time with the organization that's already there. Then you can break out and begin to speak as God calls you to, but you got to pay your dues. So I guess what I want to say, Ruth, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think there's good intentions, and good intentions can end up being the worst thing that ever happens. But I think what we want to have as Christians, and we're all Christians at the table, we want to have godly intentions, and godly intentions pay their dues, and they make sure they're equipped. The Bible says, study to show thyself approved, a workman unashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Make sure you're preparing yourself and do it in due season and due time. Right. I think that's true. And I think your organization can really help a lot with that as you evaluate and recommend things.
Like that's something that we want to help with, but it's also something that we're trying to do ourselves, if that makes sense. I had a couple people push me towards doing like trainings right away. And and maybe some of it's like insecurity and imposter syndrome on my part. I do know a decent amount about trafficking. I've been in the field for a while, but I'm not going to do something with my organization. We're not going to be facilitating something unless I feel comfortable in our ability to actually train people in it. Right. So we're spending a lot of time, and that's what I like about our organization. It's I'm not afraid to admit like our limitations and learn from people who are better than me. Because there are so many people that know so much more than me, and I just desire to learn from them. And so like that's why I have like different kinds of goals. I have these goals that are, way far out, and I have these goals that are closer. And, the things that I want to do far out, I'm hoping that in facilitating and finding all these resources for other groups, I'm learning so much, and at some point we'll be able to use them ourselves for different things. Right. So yeah, I think it's really important that you hit on that, because that's actually a large reason why I started the organization, was because I felt like there were so many groups that were, they go out because they have this heart for justice and they want something to be done. And, I think
good intentions,
apathy,
but not right methods.
And it's hard because apathy plagues the Western church more than anything I've ever seen. I think if anything's killing the church, it's apathy. And a lack of compassion.
But going out with good intentions but the wrong methods can also create more apathy, because it creates damage.
Absolutely. And I don't think that people think of long term. Like, we want short term solutions, and very rarely will we play the long game and have long-term,
but the bad
sustainable
part,
approaches.
We do want long-term, but also everybody today wants to do things instantly. They want to YouTube it and do this. So you got to balance that out.
There is like definitely plays along with like the savior complex too, of like, you want to come in as this like superior, like, there's a superiority.
You want to be the hero.
Yeah, the hero.
You want people to think you did all this great stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of being humble and learning from
taking
others.
your time.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is learning from others.
Well, the human trafficking, sex trafficking, guys, it's not going to disappear overnight. It's been here forever and ever. And so you taking time to learn to do it right in the right method, and learning and training will actually cause you to do more good than harm. So. And you'll also be able to sustain it longer. So if you take time up front, you'll actually be better in the long run. You'll do a better service. Right? You agree with that, Ruth? Ruth, you got anything else on your end?
I think I should pass it to you, and maybe we'll circle back.
Here we
to
go.
It later
Okay, so
on.
here we go. Hey, you throw it in anytime. Haley, these questions we got a little time here. We're gonna. This is like on the boom clock. So you got 60 seconds on each,
fire.
and then Mother Beth.
I'm long-winded like Troy.
No,
so this is gonna be interesting.
No. We'll try. But local. We'll fire the questions. Beth will tell us when a minute's up, and anybody can do a follow-up question to her answer. There. Here we go. All right, local reality. The fact is, you said in episode 1, we discussed very clearly that local trafficking, Williamson County, Marion, Carterville, Heron, Culp, you just named the area around here. It is a reality. Is it happening right here?
100%.
Do we have trafficking?
Absolutely.
Sex trafficking.
Yes, we have sex trafficking, and then it's important to note that like not all of it is commercial. So like there's also ongoing sexual abuse and exploitation.
But it's happening here.
But yes, it's all of it's happening here.
And
I'd venture to say it's happening in any town.
Right. Ruth is from Boston, Massachusetts. Do you guys have sexual trafficking at all in Boston, or is it an unknown thing there?
I mean, I haven't looked into it too much. I am sure it happens. It's a metropole.
It's something you see anywhere.
Anytime
well hidden, but
anytime there's poverty, it's likely.
Okay, so Haley, if people are listening,
the prevalence of it might be different. The way it looks might be different.
I know if you're listening to this podcast, and you're like, I'm driving through Southern Illinois, and you're like, I don't believe it's happening here. Look here, I've just put up Haley's connect at the mosaicinitiative.org. If you don't believe it's happening, you email her and give her your phone number, and she will call you and she will give you specific examples.
Sure.
I mean,
If
you don't want to call her, call Troy
within the bounds of respecting people's confidentiality.
No, just locations. You email Troy at onthedock.org. I'll tell you exactly where it's happening in this community. You do that. Email me. I'm just telling you, it is happening here. I can tell you what parking lots. I can tell you what truck stops.
Yeah, there's some things that like we're working on that like obviously I'm not gonna.
No. I'm just saying you could give an example.
Unravel the things that we.
I understand, but you could give an example where it's occurring in this community.
Absolutely. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I can too. I can just name a couple places.
I mean, I have dear friends who've there's been so many situations.
We have
many disclosures.
We have places of that happening right here in this community. Yeah. We can point it. Now, let me follow up with that question here. You did a good job on answering that tight. So this is kind of an offer to you. Okay, local law enforcement. Is local law enforcement aware that these places and things are happening in our community?
Well, I'm
aware
on
a scale of 1 to 5. Are they 1 being?
I will say I have.
We're Mayberry. That doesn't happen. 3 being it's happening occasionally. 5 means we're on top of it, and if it happens here, we're going to shut it down. So 5 super enforcement, 1 no enforcement, 3 kind of apathetic.
There's vast room for improvement.
Is it because of lack of knowledge?
I
or
will say the leadership that I have talked to in law enforcement is very open to growing and learning.
I agree,
and is very. I've had so much support from them and from the mayor, the leadership in our town, to improve on these things. There is always room for improvement. There is a lot of room for improvement in our area, and I think it's still just a learning curve. It's not to speak poorly on our law enforcement, because I do have a good relationship.
But I see it more visibly in this community than I ever have. And like you said, I agree with you. It's probably always been here underneath.
Yeah, there's a lot of like red tape and like logistical things that like can be improved on. And on that side, I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm aware of more in the last year than I have in my entire 30 years of being around Southern Illinois.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of it too is our law enforcement here are really overwhelmed by the opioid crisis.
Agree.
Right.
And they're very they have focuses, and they're like what's the word? They're
opioids.
Any victim services here in Southern Illinois are so like overworked and like overwhelmed that they're. And not to make excuses for them at all, but there's a level of like people are trying to do what they can, and there's a lot to be improved upon, but they need someone to help them get there.
So the sex trafficking becomes a
and
byproduct.
I think partnerships with NGOs is going to help a lot.
I agree. So the sex trafficking in our region a lot of times can become a companion piece to the opioid, to the was it meth and heroin in some of our region.
And there's nowhere for those. So I think it's important to note, like, we have victim services and things, but as far as like even residential facilities for people coming out of ongoing sex trafficking instances, that's like a brand new thing that's happening. There's a group from Chicago coming down right now, getting ready to open a facility like that. That's the first one in. They will serve the entire southern half of our state, from Effingham on down.
But basically, you've got people exploiting their bodies to pay for their drug habit because they're addicted.
Or that's like the entryway.
Or it's the entryway the other way, right?
Sometimes pimps or Romeos or boyfriends, whatever, will get a girl hooked on. Hooked on opioids, and that's the process. It's like which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes
but they're both bad in this region right now, and I would agree with you.
I'd say
the opioid, the drug things is so flagrant here.
Yeah,
and crime is the small crime.
I'd say 3 things in the local area are the biggest. Romeos, which is what we call them, or lover boys is sometimes what they'll call them. It's like older boyfriends or lovers that they do this whole kind of like a domestic abuse situation where it's like. What's that called? Like love bombing, where they'll like woo the girl. They'll like maybe they get their hair and nails done. Like it takes very little, and then they groom them and they gain trust and they exploit that trust and you see that a lot. And then you also see like, especially like up in St. Louis, we saw this a lot as like crews like. Gangs and stuff.
So Romeos is
gangs
one group.
Are growing a lot in our area.
Is Cruz your second one?
I mean, I don't know the like statistics of like what's more prevalent, but I'd say these are the things from my experience I've seen
several
a lot.
Different styles. Romeo's one style. Cruz gangs running together.
Yeah, I mean, and then also like you see parents and stuff exploiting their own children and things like that. As far as like commercial sex trafficking outside of just sexual abuse, but also was my third. Yeah, the gangs it's really big in the gangs serving your crew and stuff, and that's another one that you see a lot. And then like the drug crisis plays a lot into it. Not to say that it's like confined to those 3 things, but those are the things you see a lot of.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna throw out an offer to the Mosaic initiative, and this is whether it's helpful or not. You decide, but.
Putting me on the spot.
No, it's okay. You don't have to take it here. I'm just going to make an offer as the pastor at Community Faith Church and somebody that's highly engaged here with the Heron House of Hope, with what's going on in this community. Our facility here at Community Faith Church, we have able to do video. We're able to do Zoom premium conferencing. We're able to bring in people and put them on the screen. We're able to tape and record it. I would be glad for Community Faith Church. I would be glad for our foundation, Hands of Hope, to partner with you at any point in time. If you want to do any kind of law enforcement training on sex trafficking and being able to identify it and cope with it, if you want to try to bring in anybody to help with that as a resource, and you want somebody to stand up and go speak to our mayors and ask if our local LEOs, our law enforcement officers, would like to come, I would be glad to host an event here with the Mosaic taking leadership and bringing whatever resources you want in. And I would be glad to extend my relationship with Mayor Apsher, with Mayor Fertini and them, and invite them in. And I will promise you this, we'll provide a place, the resources. I'll help you with that, but you'd have to bring the resources and the right apparatus. And I'll make sure our Barbecue Hero teams provides a meal to those local law enforcement that honors their work. We'll feed them I'm a 3-time partner and part of a world championship, John Will's Barbecue.
Best brisket I've ever had.
Brisket ribs. We will feed them a meal of honor like we treat all people in law enforcement, all our first responders. We'll feed a meal that day that they will love the fact that they came. And in the meantime, you equip them with what they need to bring people to bear and strengthen them to attack this. So anytime you want to do a workshop or an event,
we appreciate that.
I'm dead serious on that. So.
And we hosted our training for churches here, and all of the hospitality of our church we really appreciate, and Hands of Hope Foundation.
But I think if you got the right kind of person to come in and train them, I think they would value that.
Yeah. I'm in current conversations with Chief Fitz, and he's been really supportive of it. His wife was even part of CASA, so she's like really familiar with that whole system and the sexual abuse that happens in our area. So And Mayor Absher too. I've had several candid conversations with him. I really, really respect both of them, and
they really care about our community.
They really do, and they want to learn.
Yeah.
And I think this particular group that I've found to come in would be really. It would really change things in the area.
I would like to just see our local law enforcement. I know
in
they're
the prosecution. I've talked a little bit with Brandon Zanotti too.
Yeah,
he's on board.
I'd like to have them in here too.
He's great. Yeah.
We'll buy. Hey,
like
Bill's a part of our barbecue team here. We'll barbecue. Bill, will you barbecue with me?
All right.
We'll barbecue. We'll host it. We'll do whatever we can to help you. If you bring the right people in, and I'll help you. I'll help you do the invites.
Yeah.
And we're Italian in this area in a way that they cannot refuse. We're going to encourage them with an offer they cannot refuse. Barbecue. You feed the guys. You bring them in. You honor them. But at the same time, let's equip them with something fresh.
So the thing I like about the group that we're bringing in too is he's really, the whole deal that he has is you can't, like, the deal is if he comes in, you will not arrest the sex workers, but it's all focused on those who are organizing and pimps and sex buyers.
All right.
And so it's great.
Next question. Porn is a window. Is porn, ladies?
Jumping around.
I know. I got to go get to it. Is porn a window? Is it a starter drug to this? What do you think?
Well,
the starter drug to down the road to sex trafficking.
Well,
exploitation.
I can say two things about porn being, it's definitely a tool for exploitation. Every single girl that I had, porn was involved in their case somehow, whether it was they were shown what services the men were wanting from them. So I think obviously it played into the role somehow by fantasy. And then there's statistics about how a percentage of trafficking victims have a large percentage of, I think it's I want to say 40%, but I don't want to just quote numbers that I don't know. But it is a significant percent have video pornography made of them during their trafficking. Mm-hmm. And so we can tell you right now that there is exploitive pornography, and there's no real way to tell whether that person has truly given consent or not from the other side of the film.
So let me follow. Does pornography then create an alternative reality that desensitizes us to creating a culture that allows sex trafficking?
It can be definitely an introduction into, it's not a true look into what real healthy sexual relationships look like. I think we could all pretty much agree with that. Highly racist, highly sexist. There's fetishization of younger girls. The number one search, you can go on Pornhub and look at their most searched words. It might kind of disturb you. I promise it will. But one of them is teen. Yeah. And so we've created that through pornography, and that and it's crazy because the trends will follow that. It's kind of concerning. When the things came out about, the Olympic coach that was molesting his, constant thing was coach destroys teen, gymnast. That was the top pornography. It follows the trends of that. And so there is even on mainstream porn, there's highly violent, very degrading. I think it's definitely creates a fantasy, and it, I think it introduces these ideas to places where it may not have already been.
And it certainly, don't you agree that it probably heightens the aggressiveness of people today?
Absolutely.
They're much more aggressive.
And the age of introduction is so much younger than what it used to be. And pornography, severe pornography and masturbation, addictions,
are much chronic, higher, are very high.
Start so much younger because of access. Even from when I was younger to now, I think I was probably in high school when Instagram was when Facebook was getting big. So there, even from when I was a child to now, there's definitely more access. But I remember being a small kid on the library computer looking, because I was really into Spy Kids. I looked up spyware or something, ended up on some interesting sites. My dad was no.
Right. Yeah, so you can search almost anything.
Yeah. So I definitely do think that and we talked about this earlier, there is psychological study, there is actual literature and studies that say that the experience of first really have a particular hold on the brain. And so I think if your first sexual experience or even introduction into anything sexual is violent aggressive behavior, you learn that as like a normal, and that's kind of trains your brain.
If you start there at that unreality
yeah,
set,
and they
where
do
do you
say
go
pornography like releases dopamine in your brain. Similar, they studied the effects it had on the brain, and it's just like hardcore drugs. And so I think that's the issue with pornography is it leaves you wanting more and more and more.
Right.
And
because
and
dopamine,
I mean, I know Jeffrey,
dopamine the dopamine in the brain becomes addicted to the desire to have that release. So whatever gives that release, whatever way you do it, you know.
One of the most infamous serial killers, was it Jeffrey Dahmer? It was Zac Efron just played him in a movie.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy. I misquoted that earlier. I said Jeffrey Dahmer. I meant Ted Bundy. And you know, he was kind of crazy at the end in general, but like one of the things, I've watched one of his interviews and that's what he said. He definitely took a lot of the responsibility off of himself and blamed it on this, but I think he had a point. He's like, every person I've met in here that has raped or killed has had a severe addiction to hardcore pornography,
which creates that access, that desensitization, that alternate reality,
and that need for violence because it actually numbs your sense. Like
it's a cascading effect.
Yeah.
But so people can relate. You don't have to be into porn to do that. Well, you can be into working out, lifting weights. Yeah. All that creates a release of endorphins and things, and it has a feel good feeling when you come in from working out. You get that pump feeling. All of us are gonna get that. You just got to decide to do it with the right things.
Yeah.
And things can
healthy
become very
coping skills. Yeah.
Healthy coping skills. Healthy ways.
And that's not to create like shame, like to be like, oh, if you struggle with pornography, I don't like you. I think you're a terrible person, and you're the reason people are exploited.
It's everywhere.
Am
it's
I being candid and saying
right.
that? Yeah, you may be contributing to it. Yeah, I'll be a little cheeky and challenge you on that. But I also like have so many people I love who have struggled through addiction, and I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be condemning or anything. I shared this with Troy. He knows about it too. Triple X Church. If you're looking for a resource, like I never want to talk about pornography and pornography addiction without offering resources to get yourself help.
It's
because it's triplexchurch.com, I believe. And they have a lot of resources for men and women struggling with
monitoring to help you with accountability.
They'll help you with it.
Hey guys, listen, don't be scared of that.
And it's a real addiction. I mean, it's a real issue, and it takes a lot of strength to like overcome that.
Anybody can get caught up in it. It's almost a cultural norm to watch it now because it's everywhere at every TV level, at every show level. What we didn't see back years ago, we now see.
They suggest it for couples and like sex therapy. Like that's like the first thing they suggest. So it's definitely normalized.
It's not a good thing for sex therapy. It's not.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole point, right? It's like we're trying to reteach ourselves and our culture what healthy consensual relationships are.
Right.
So Ruth,
and that's important.
Ruth, you mentioned in our pre-show here, you mentioned access also. She mentioned access and the taboo factor. How does that factor in this, that we've dropped that in your studies? It like everything goes and there's less shame, but then there seems to be more shame. I don't know.
Well, I think, what I meant by that is just that, before, and I can't like speak to this on a personal level or anything. This is just my speculation. But before, in order to access this kind of stuff, you knew that was like you had to go to the back. Everyone could see you.
The seedy place.
Yeah, and it wasn't something you wanted to talk about. Nah. And so there was a level of shame associated with it that I think probably led to, you're not going to talk about it with your friends. You're less likely to make it known to other people that this is something that you're interested in.
And you're probably less likely to seek it. Like you would have to like almost seek it out versus like you're less likely to
stumble
no
one's telling you about
if
it.
That makes sense.
Right.
Whereas I think now it's more of something that, like
go to Instagram and like
we joke about it together. We talk about it. Like we, give each other recommendations. I don't know. And I think that makes it's much like what you see there then becomes like much more acceptable. If it's something that that everybody else is watching, that everybody else has access to, it becomes something that can be a part of your life.
I mean, even like the way that like online dating has changed, like casual sexual encounters and like the ease of like coming across that, I just think there's like a lot with the like social media, like taking a big rise in the internet. I mean, like we said, I can't speculate on whether it's more prevalent or not, but we're definitely more aware of it. But because we're more aware of it, I think we have a bigger responsibility. Like we have a responsibility. We're not in blissful ignorance. We have a responsibility to change the culture, especially within the church. I think that's where it's going to come from. And we have to not be afraid to address these issues, like there's been lots of churches that I've gone to and they never once talked about pornography. They never once talked about like healthy sexual relationships within marriage, or like they really, that's one of the things I love about our churches. We're not like afraid to touch on those things because it's a real thing that people are really dealing with, and they need to be able to talk about that.
Right.
And celebrate with, like, healthy consensual sexual relationships should be celebrated. You know, it's a thing that like God created. It's a beautiful thing. Like, I think, you know, there's been a lot of positive things with like in the last 50 years, even of like women and their role in sex, and like knowing that it isn't just for procreation, and like, you know, honoring like it being like
God gave us
and
a fun
supposed
thing.
to be enjoyable for everybody,
That's right.
like not just one person.
Right.
You know, I think there's been a lot. It's interesting because I think while we've had the rise of like negative things, it'd be dismissive to not acknowledge the like somewhat like there's more voice. I feel like there's more people that like we like, even with the Me Too movement and say what you will about it. I think there's a lot of people that found out they weren't alone in that.
It's a lot more prevalent. More people.
There wouldn't have been that many stories if
thinking about like marital rape and what it means to like have sexual autonomy and, you know, within a married relationship, I think is super important. That's something that I think has a long way to go still.
And date rape is a huge thing too. Like a lot of the girls that like a lot of my friends that have experienced earlier into situations like that and instances of rape, a lot of it's date rape.
Yeah, Beth and I were talking about the other night that it really touches almost everybody you know somehow or another. Let me ask two more questions here I got on my list here. Do you think that the hypersexualization of our society, because it's so accessible, even at a very younger age today, you get access to a lot more the fact that there's less of a taboo factor than we used to have, and it's like what people are seeing at their first entry level could be much higher than what they would have seen at entry level 20 years ago. Do you think the hypersexualization, then also the hyper glamorization today, the focus on products and look and I want to have this and that, do you think that's making victimization a little more easier today because the desire is greater than the evaluation of the worth? Not the worth of the person, but the worth of what you're getting into. Do you think there's a drive for that? Do you think there's a push? Do you think it's been commercialized and it's being pulled on by everybody?
I mean, I don't know. I think that and I hate to just say women because like I shared with you earlier.
Both sides today.
I think it was like, I read a statistic that was 20% of men have experienced sexual abuse.
Just looking
and that's probably a really conservative number.
I'd say it is.
Hey, absolutely. But just looking
at
it.
And I never want it to sound like I'm just like an advocate for women, because I 100% believe in backing men, and it's a huge like I still think that we have way far to go in that, because it's still seen as a women's movement, not as a everyone movement.
Well, look,
but years to say like, I mean, women were thought of as property just like a little over 50 years ago.
Well, that's not changed in some countries still.
It's still not changed. And so I think like, is it just to say that it's just the hypersexualization? Like, yes, is there hypersexualization of like teenagers happening to some degree right now? Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said earlier, Miley Brown, she was, you know, the star of Stranger Things, I think was named as one of the like world like top 10 like or top 100 sexiest women or something. They redacted it really quickly, but like just the idea that like she was a minor and that was a thing, like, but I don't know that that's new. Like,
it's
look at
not.
Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, like all these things, like where Disney has been a proponent of a lot of them.
But let me ask you, how has that worked out for all those? Almost all that's a train wreck. I mean,
but there's a lot of abuse in Hollywood and everything too. On top of all
has
it.
been. Right.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to speculate because I wasn't around then.
We just see the train wrecks quicker today because of social media.
I think, but like, I mean, you go past like even just like the 1900s. You go even further. Like, you know, raping and pillaging was just like commonplace. It was part of war. It was
child marriage. Like,
I mean, you look at like what happened in Vietnam. Like, there's so many like children who are products of soldiers raping women there, you know, like so it's a little challenging of a question for me, because do I think that's dangerous, what's happening in our culture? Absolutely. Do I think it's the full cause of it? No. Like, I think that there's always been depravity and stuff, but I do think it's like, I think it's a huge problem because it's so many people are seeing it all at one time, and it's it's pervasive.
I think
It's
what
really,
Ruth has said
like,
earlier,
easy
though,
to-
it
yeah.
makes the responsibility we have to communicate and train our
that was
children.
actually
Well, it's
Haley who said that.
Well, it was both of you, but in the resources stuff, to be a better resource, to communicate, to teach, to train our kids, to talk openly, or you said openly. You say openly. What was it?
And
openly. Was it openly?
Openly,
open, honest, and
honestly,
often. Yeah, we need to do that. So let me wrap.
But I think it's important to note too that like just because someone is hypersexualized by someone else, like, you know, I think we often use that to take the responsibility off of the party
100%.
that is sexualizing them.
Totally
And
agree.
that's the one thing about the like more empowerment movement that I do like agree with, because there is a level of like, no, like learn how to control yourself and not look at people like a sexual object. Do I think we're creating an environment where it's very hard for people to do that because of everything they're surrounded with? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I think there has to be responsibility on all parts.
Yeah,
like
I think you said that better.
On
though.
the abuser, like there has to be.
I didn't intend for my question to come off as this.
Yeah,
that
and
the
I know you
hypersexual
didn't.
women
Yeah.
is their fault. I was coming off as saying is our society is hypersexualized. It's so much so that on the male side, because it's pushed by industry, it's pushed by desire, it's pushed by ads, it's pushed by.
And I think
media.
the responsibility is taken off of them.
But my point
with
is,
that,
Yeah,
they think it is.
it is.
They think it is.
I think, yeah.
But my point is, it can be used the other side as grooming, because we
Yeah.
push that, we desire
Yeah,
that. You know,
you see that even with
it's a
like,
whole cultural failure, I think.
well, I mean,
And I really don't think it's that recent. Like, think about when Lolita was written, you know, like
yeah,
Right.
it's been around, like older men lusting after younger girls. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
It's just,
I agree with
but
that.
I
totally,
do think
yeah.
like so like one of the rules that we had in our home when I worked with minors coming out of sex trafficking in St. Louis was we like wouldn't allow music that glorified the life. It turns out that's really hard to do. Like it really narrows down, because it is pervasive. It is part of the culture. I mean, you know, there's quite a bit of songs about it glorifying it, and I do think that plays into some of the grooming process because it is glorified. It is accepted in mainstream culture.
Gosh, when I was a teenager, music had a huge influence on me.
Absolutely.
You know, and on how I thought about sex and drinking, and you know, it was that.
But
was
there's
fun.
many more
That was how
paths.
you had fun. You know,
But there's many more paths today, which
There are. I'm
accentuates
just
our
saying, though,
responsibility
Yeah.
Music
as the
can be a
church, as
huge-
Christians, as
Yeah,
NGOs.
and I think it's really all about like we need to raise the next like the upcoming generations with a sense of responsibility. You know?
right.
But to do
To
that,
and I think that's like through all things, like, you know, we have to learn how to, like, that's how you move from a survivor to a thriver.
Right.
You know,
I agree with that.
and
That's good.
there is healing, and like that has to be found, and we want to empower the people to be able to do those
but
things.
that has to be demonstrated
Yeah.
first and foremost by those that are
Yeah.
in positions of power. We've got to humble ourselves. We've got to take a look at the systems that have been created.
And you
It
can do
needs
that
to
with
be
like
demonstrated by the church.
By the
I mean,
church,
we're
well,
supposed
the
to
church
be-
has been a proponent of really turning its head on a lot of it,
Right.
and frankly, engaging in a lot of it and causing
right.
a lot of it.
We're supposed to be in the world.
Yeah.
So
not-
whether it's commission
not
or
of-
omission, both are wrong,
right.
Yeah.
and there needs to
And
be
I think
awareness.
I think like a lack of compassion too. Like I think we tend to go one way or the other. Like I've seen a
Yes.
lot of interesting conversations around modesty recently, and some of them are really problematic, and some of them are like I don't like I value I value those things biblically, but also like when the responsibility is fully put on one party and not the other, it's problematic.
But
too.
don't you agree? We all need to take responsibility. there?
Yes,
Yeah.
On both
to some
sides,
degree.
on
I, like,
both sides of the
to
sexes,
take responsibility,
parents and
yes.
young people, we need to all work together.
Yeah, to take responsibility, yes, but that's not to say
Right.
that like, and to be very clear, is not to say that the way you dress is your fault for being, you know,
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely agreed.
harassed or anything like that.
No.
Are there steps that you can take to be more safe and to try and prevent things? Yes, but
You really shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to, and it's not also like. It is the world we live in, yeah, and we shouldn't have to. Those things we can do to not put yourself in like those types of positions, but at the same time, there are some situations that you're not going to be able to avoid, and it's not your fault.
But
It's
from
never,
a pastoral
yeah.
perspective, we live in a fallen world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
we
I was
live
going
in
to
a
say,
world-
I shouldn't have to lock
My doors.
my door of
Yeah.
my house either.
But if
or I
not,
should be able to walk
Right.
down a street
I'm just saying,
alone.
like, to survivors who are listening, like, if they didn't take those precautions, I think it's really easy
it's
to
not their
feel
fault.
like it's their fault. It's
yeah,
not
Yeah,
our
I
fault.
totally agree.
Yeah.
But
no.
are there things that you can do to to try and protect yourself? Yes. It's
Right.
not always going to prevent those things, but like, you know, like I had different boundaries for myself, like with even drinking around like people like who I trusted, things like that.
Right.
Not to say like that.
Not to let yourself be
because
there
were some situations that I was in that were, I did all of the preventative things and I still ended up in really precarious situations, locked in a room with a dude who's trying to,
Right.
I experienced assault in that way, like at a Christian college,
Right. Right.
So
and it's like my pastor used to tell the young men in our church, it's both of your responsibilities. And if you would see women as your sisters, or your mothers, or if you start having impure thoughts about them or something, stop. Just turn your head. Do something else. And
I think it's when you say
too.
Both your responsibility, it like kind of puts like a blame.
No. I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's how people hear it.
To teach their sons to see women,
to respect,
in a respectful manner.
Yeah,
right.
And I think
not to see them as.
I think it's valuable to teach like girls and empower girls to respect themselves too.
Yes,
but don't you think the whole thing comes back to self-respect on any side of the spectrum? You've got to be able to be you and be your whole you and who God created you to be.
Yeah, I think it's hard because like our generation maybe sees that in a different way. So that's what's interesting. Like, I mean, with the modesty, all those conversations, it is like really like interesting, and I'm still like figuring out what I think on all of it.
Right.
Yeah, but no matter what you think about it, you've got to come back to the biblical mandate that we are our brothers and sisters' keeper.
Yeah,
we need to respect each other and do the right things with our bodies.
I try to like honor my husband in the way that I dress, in the way that I act, and things. But it would never justify, like me dressing a certain way would never justify someone's taking advantage of me.
Right. Exactly. No. Never ever.
And I realize that that's what you're saying, but just to clarify for listeners,
we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. The Bible says, because we're to love God and we're to love each other.
And there should be some protection from like men too. Like I think that we've kind of taken responsibility off of others to be protective. Cause like I saw this post the other day and kind of got to me. It was like every woman knows a friend who's been abused, but yet somehow all the men don't know abusers.
No, all the men know it.
They all do. And so like, where are they?
But when you're on the power side of it,
I think that we need to make room for men in the conversation, because I think that they feel like they don't have a place at the table, and it's problematic because where we're going to see change is like, not to say like women can be perpetrators. That's absolutely 100%, but are the majority of them men? Yeah. So it's a problem that like we need to have a conversation in like teaching.
Conversation's good, and we need to empower people through conversation and learning, but the bottom line is each of us have to take responsibility
individual
for our behavior, for our actions, and doing things appropriately biblically for ourselves. And as we love ourselves and take care of ourselves, do the same for the other people that are around you.
I have to honor my husband's consent just as he has to honor mine.
And whether we're married or not to somebody, we should honor everybody's consent. And so I think that's the key, is that we love God, we love each other. God doesn't save us forcefully. He waits for us to free will decide whether we want to be Christian or not. In the same way with our bodies, we need to make sure that we're making decisions of our own accord. We're not driven by other things. We need to let people have the freedom to really decide, as for me and my house, how are we going to do this? It's been a great conversation. I hope you watch the Mosaic Initiative. It's very powerful. I think we've some very cool things to talk about here. We're way long. These 3 podcasts have been way longer than we've ever been on any. Haley has no reins on this, but she's got a great heart and a great passion for the Lord.
It's just so much
it's
to
a
talk
very
about.
important
it's
subject.
Hard to like squeeze into that amount of time.
So let me just tell you, if you want to find more about the Mosaic Initiative, you can see the information on the screen. Check it out. Connect at themosaicinitiative.org. You can email her. You can get on her website as well. And you can certainly donate to the organization at the donate link on their website. And also on their Facebook site, they've got the Mosaic Initiative. You can find them there. It's been a great conversation. Ruth, thank you so much. You have been a blessing. We're not done with you. We're going to get a few more podcasts out of you before you get back to Boston and Harvard. So we've been glad to have you. We're going to be learning. Hey, we'll be focusing in on Ruth on a podcast to come. So we're going to get into her business. We can't wait. She's going to be great. It's been great. So check out our website. Yeah, we can't wait. Mother Beth, thank you. Haley, just incredible work you're doing. Thank you for all your leadership
thanks
today.
for having me.
Yeah, find us at onthedoc.org. You can find out all our platforms and links and all that stuff. Email us at info@onthedoc.org if you want more information. Find us on our platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Go find us also over on Google Podcasts, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and Sermonet, and social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Telegram. We'd love to hear your comments and your inputs and share your stories with us, and just reach out to us. And always subscribe, hit like, notify, and make comments. And we always want you to be our partner on Patreon or or a sponsor of one of our shows coming up, you can go there and find out how. Just go to Patreon and find onthedoc.org. If you can't find it, go to onthedoc.org, find the link over to that, and you can find our platforms there. And finally, last but not least, if you don't have a church home, we'd love to have you at Community Faith Church. We meet Sundays at 10 o'clock, Wednesdays at 6:30. You can check out our online presence at www.coftv.com. And we also have a broadcast that we do at both 10 and 6:30 at our Community Faith Church YouTube and Facebook channels. We'd love to have you here present. And if you can also join us on the virtual campus. Again, ladies, thank you so much. It's been a powerhouse. Man, you guys are just tough to manage. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of passion and good leadership here. I hope you listen to all these and really learn from these and grow from these and share these. And Haley, that last word you told us as parents, open, honest, and often. Make sure you're having open, honest, and often communications with your kids. Make sure you're not hiding from the information. And let's get out there and do some great things. Get out of the shallows and into the deep. I'm Pastor Troy with On the Dock. We'll see you soon.